I'm really excited to start this series because I think it's going to solve a lot of business issues. I built AgentRage.com back in September last year, and the idea was having agents that are ready to execute workflows for various business needs. So you might need an A2P registration helper. You would enter a bunch of data and it would pop out the results of your registration. And then you could copy those results directly into your form and submit it. Or like a title and brand name availability checker, it would make sure when you had a new business, you had available handles across all of social media, so you're not adding numbers and letters at the end of your usernames. But now that we have Claude Code, this could be version 2.0 for AgentRage.com. I'm envisioning agents that people can come over and hire. So for example, MacGyver Reviver over here. You hire him for $20 a month, and it shows you exactly how to provide your API key for Go High Level. It tells you what buttons to click and enter and copy and paste the key, and then MacGyver gets to work. It goes into your sub account, looks at all of your stale leads, re-engages with them via email or text, and then books them on your calendar in order for you to close the sale. A business owner doesn't have to install Claude, build any software, or hire any human virtual assistants anymore. And just like you would communicate with a VA, you text them, you email them, and they get to work. And then the result is usually in the form of an email or a product that they've delivered or an action that you can observe. You don't necessarily need to meet a VA in person. Most likely they're in a different country anyway. And secondly, if you are a VA, then you in turn can subcontract to MacGyver Reviver. And for $20 a month, it will just do all of your tasks for you. So in this series, I'm going to start with setting up Claude on my computer, having an API connection, adding tokens, and essentially building the factory that's going to produce these agents. And then on subsequent parts, I'll build an agent for every tutorial so you can follow along and have your own AgentRage alongside me. So let's get to work. First thing we need is Node.js. So let's go to nodejs.org. And because Claude was built using JavaScript, which is typically a language used for websites, we are now trying to use Claude on our Windows PC. And in order for it to communicate, it needs software that can help translate. And that software is Node.js. Let's get Windows installer, and then let's run it. Accept, next. Let's install everything, next, and install, and finish. Now installing a bunch of dependencies along with their patches. Okay, it's done. Open up a command prompt, and let's take a look. Node version 4.4 that checks, and also our installer 11.9.0. And that checks. Now let's install Visual Studio Code, which is going to be the front end, the user interface. We go to code.visualstudio.com. and then download for Windows. Find the installer file and double click. I accept, next, and install, and finish. So this is the factory where we're gonna build all the agents. First thing we need here is Claude Code. So let's open up a terminal and let's throw in this command. We wanna install Anthropic AI Claude Code, enter. Okay, Claude installed. Now we're going to need an API key. So let's go over to console.anthropic.com. Let's log in. So we need credits and then we need our API key. So let's add some credits. Now we have some credits in here. There's two ways to use Claude. One is the console, which is here, web, similar to ChatGPT or Gemini. And then the other is through an API. So if you're developing software, then you would want to use the API. And that's where we are today. So that's what we're going to use. Let's create a key. So we now have credits and we now have our key. Let's go back to Visual Studio, say Claude. Okay, now let's add our API key to the environment variable. And within these quotes, we'll have to put the API key we just got from Anthropic. Okay, and that worked. Let's see if we can fire up Claude. Let me drag this up here and welcome to Claude Code. Perfect. Do we want dark mode? Sure, why not? Hello world, one of the earliest programs. Do we want red or green? And our login method is going to be the console account API usage billing. So this opens up, we say authorize, and you're all set. You can close this window. So let's go back to the terminal, login successful, plus enter to continue. So this is a terminal, meaning I can type commands in this interface and interact with my computer that I'm on. But at the same time, whenever I need Claude, using that API, we can leverage Claude's brainpower to build things and problem solve. So we work inside a directory on our computer. That's where we're going to add images, files, environment variables, and so on. And that's where we need to start Claude from. So we can change directory into the directory that I just created. Okay, so on my computer, I created a folder called AgentRage Claude. and then I simply navigated to that folder, and now I'm going to start Claude from within that folder. And that's what's recommended. You work out of a project folder dedicated for Claude. So now we're ready. That took about an hour, basically, top to bottom, waiting for it to install, getting the keys and setting up the directory and so on. Having done it once, I could probably do it again in about 10 minutes. And now I'm ready to build my assistant. So if I'm Sonic, then it has to be Tails. And let's go ahead and give it the right prompts, build out the markdown file, the environment file, and give it all of the keys that I would need to check my emails, check my calendars, and do everything an assistant can. Okay, it's going to be called Tails, and the tech stack is going to have Node.js, which is installed, Google API to use my Google Calendar and check my emails, also send emails for me, and then of course the Anthropic SDK. Yeah, let's go. So it writes out exactly what I told it to in an organized fashion, then ask me yes or no. I'd say yes. And now we'll build a Node.js project where this is going to sit along with all the dependencies, the APIs, and then a listening port. So whenever I do send it a command, it's always ready 24/7. Okay, so on my computer, it built out all of this stuff. So it has a folder, it's got the Claude.md file, and then it has this environment file where we're going to plug in all of our API keys. So Claude can reference this file every time it needs to go access my email. It'll reference the API keys, which are going to unlock that capability. And I have to plug all of them in here first. So let's open it up in Notepad. So let's go grab these one by one. So let's use this as an example. So I logged into Google Cloud Console with my account, create a project. In this case, I called AgentRage Claude. And then you have to enable every capability that you want your agent to be able to use. So I wanted to use my Gmail, so I'm going to hit enable. Now the agent that I built in Claude has the ability to go use my Gmail, check emails, send emails, delete emails, and now I need to give it more access. Here's the Google Calendar API. Go ahead and enable that. Then I can search for some more. Let's look for Google Drive. That'll be a good one. Google Sheets is a good one. Let's do Google Docs. Slides, why not? People API is a good one. So now I can use people's name, like text John for me, or emails Robert that I'm going to be late to the meeting. Google Tasks to manage my to-do list. And because they own YouTube as well, we can take a look at, hey, how many views did my last video get? Cloud Vision is a cool one I used recently. So if you're at a business meeting, you can take a picture of somebody's business card and say, hey, just add it to my contacts. And then Tails, the assistant, will just add it to my records. Translation would be nice. Getting an email in a different language. Do some custom searches for me as well. That would be nice to maybe pull some leads. Okay, now all these skills are available and enabled in Google, but in order to access them, I need a key. I have to give this key to my Claude agent, Tails, to be able to communicate with Google. So let's create that key. Okay, instead of individual API keys, because you don't want to do that for every skill, let's build a service account, and then that account will be able to access all of these skills. Create service account. Okay, create and continue. Okay, you're going to need to download a JSON file for your Google credentials. This is pretty challenging if you haven't done it before, and Google by default also blocks you from downloading this because too many people were downloading them and then uploading them to forums and GitHub repositories, and so this is Google's way of mitigating that risk. So it's a policy issue, and since we're the admin, we can change the policy. Let's cancel this. Let's go over to organization policies. Let's look for disable service account keys, and let's click the first one. Here are the active policies. Let's find out which one's blocking us. Disable service account key creation. That's it. Let's click on that. This is what makes it a little bit more challenging, is because organizing all of these permissions is keeping it all straight in your mind, because we have an account for AgentRage, but it doesn't have permissions to disable a service account. For that, you have to go to the organization. The organization is on a Combinator, but then the organization also didn't have permissions to manage this policy. So we first had to give permissions for the organization to manage the organization policy, and then we were able to come over here, and now this highlights, and we could say manage policy. Okay, now we should be able to change this to off and set policy. So now let's drop down to our agent, which is AgentRage Claude, and you see that changes now to the agent, and now we need the JSON file of the service account credentials. So let's go over to service accounts. This is our service account. We say manage keys. Okay, so more policies are in the way now. We have to go find the service account key exposure response policy and change that. Of course, we have to do that up at the organization level. So let's go back to Sonic Combinator. Let's go to organization policies, see if it's in here, and here it is. Let's click on that one, manage policy. So we have to say override the parent policy and then replace that policy with an allow all, reversing the role. So set policy. Okay, I'll say merge with parent, allow all. done. Okay, either way, we're allowing it. Okay, that seemed to work. So I go into the agent Claude, then search for service account, click on the service account, which is this one, then go into manage keys, add key, create new key, pick JSON create, and that pops out a JSON file. Perfect. Okay, fill in your real credentials and environment before running. That is now done. Let's ask it if I did it correctly. So pasting the JSON directly into the environment file was not correct. I said you need double quotes. And what's cool about this is it says, do you want me to just do it for you? And actually it doesn't even ask. It says, I'll wrap the JSON in double quotes. So .environment reads it as a single value. Great. Already you're seeing the benefits from moving from a workflow to an agent. An agent can identify these problems and then using context and its LLM brainpower, solve these problems for us in real time. Okay, so this is the factory, so to speak. And we can build anything. So if we can build an agent, like an assistant, that can check my emails or check my calendar and tell me if I received an important email. Let's see if we can build a tails for this Sonic Combinator. But before we start, we have to fix where we're operating in. Because Claude works within a folder, we have to go to that particular folder, create appropriate folders that would be called that project name. So let's call it tails, for example. And then we would launch Claude within that folder. So I just created a folder called tails. So I'm just going to navigate there real quick. So now I'm in here. This folder is empty and we want to launch in here. So let's paste. Okay, once I'm in the correct folder called tails, I type in Claude, which launches Claude. And now over here, I can explain exactly what tails is going to do. Is the exec assistant to system. Should be able to check email and calendars. Both are in Gmail. Yes, you can read from the top directory because I might have environment variables or my markdown file over there, and the top directory for the entire Claude Code project can have key references that all the sub-agents that I create may need to leverage. Okay, so then it writes these functions. Do you want to create one? Yes, I'm just going to say do it whenever you want. Go ahead and build a function as needed. Okay, I need to go give it permissions to add this particular scope. So let's go do this one. Okay, that was added. And now I'll say done. Tails is ready. She. You assume Tails gender. Okay, just ask her. Okay, here we go. Hi, how are you? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Okay, can you check my emails? Bad escape character in JSON in position 162. No, you can't check my emails. There's some kind of a text issue. Okay. Let's go figure out where this issue is. I'm going to give it 2. It's having an issue checking emails. Okay, let's go back. I say, can you check my emails? And it can. Here's a summary of your 5 most recent emails. The Telegram bot, SRQ dumpster dudes, toll-free verification, welcome to ngrok, MFA device added. Okay, yeah, those are my emails. Can I check my calendar? Okay, good. Meeting with Zach, Riverside, Google Meet, and then Zach again. Okay, cool. That's all Fridays. Easy peasy. So that was pretty straightforward. When you think about it, you install Node.js because Claude has to be able to communicate with the computer. And then you install Visual Studio, and then you set up your Anthropic API. Then you can communicate with the LLM directly. The LLM then builds you an assistant. You give the assistant the appropriate permissions over your resources, like email, calendar, and so on. And then the assistant just does things for you. And the more resources we can give to the assistant, for example, a phone number to make phone calls, maybe access to a browser, we could do something like that next. If you have access to a browser, then the possibilities are endless because then it's like, hey, go log into my CRM and look up all of the contacts, right? And then go log into Go High Level and create an automation for me. Who knows? The sky's the limit. So this is part 1. I'm going to build a series of agents, and then the agents that I find are helpful for other businesses, I'm going to host them on AgentRage.com, where you can come over and basically hire an agent to go run a particular task for you, or just hire it for the entire month and it'll just replace your VA. And then, like I said, if you are a VA, then you want to use AgentRage and it can do all of your work for you and you can take on multiple projects. So hope you like the proof of concept. I certainly do. I think there's a lot of potential here. So like and subscribe, join my Skool community if you want to follow along. Let's do this. If you want to do this yourself and you just need a little bit of help, join my Skool community, use my high-level affiliate link, and I will help you. Revenue that I generate from that, 20% of it goes into paid ads, and the leads, I share them with my community. With my affiliate link, you get a 30-day extended trial plus a bootcamp that you can go through. I have a 15-part course that gets you from initial idea all the way to operational agency. You'll get hundreds of pre-built AI agents ready to go, workflows, automations, website templates. I also have 40 plus businesses and marketing courses that you can then sell to your members. I'm heavily involved in my community. I join 7 days a week so you can have one-on-ones with me where we can build things, we can do think tanks and come up with business ideas. You can even join my businesses where I show you what I'm doing day in and day out. Everything is completely free until I get to maximum capacity. Join now.